Okay, so we're going to look at another kind of notification. So far we have this one, which is kind of cool, Noti, and that's great for non-intrusive notifications that you want to get to your user, but sometimes you really need to get your user's attention. And we want to do a modal alert. Now, as you probably know, if we go over to Get Bootstrap, and we look at documentation, and we go to components, it has a modal. So we can actually use Bootstrap's modal if we want to. And it's pretty straightforward. It looks like this. It can pop that up if you want to. The reason I'm not going to use it right now is because, like pretty much everything else in Bootstrap, all the interactive stuff anyway, it depends upon jQuery. And I'm not really a big fan of jQuery. This looks great, don't get me wrong. And it's pretty easy to do. But we're going to use something else. And the one I want to use is called SweetAlert. And SweetAlert is really, really good. So we can look at this. For example, a very basic message. There it is. Any fool can use a computer. That's true, but not entirely in my experience, but that's neither here nor there. You can put a title and an icon, and it's really pretty easy to use. So let's install it to start with. So we'll go to installation, and we will grab the source from a CDN. And we will put that, this one is a script, so I'll put that at the bottom of my page. So go to I'm doing everything on reservation.html. And when we cut this up into Golang templates, we'll make it a little more organized. But I'm going to save that there. And how do we use this thing? So let's go back to the documentation. And usage. So we put that in there, good. We put that in there, and let's call a SweetAlert. So I'll take this, and what I'll do is I'm going to reprogram my button over here, which currently shows a Noti notification, and I will instead have that fire the SweetAlert. So that's right here in my JavaScript, where I'm adding my listener to the element with the ID of color button. When it's clicked, do whatever's in here. So I'll comment out the notify, and I'll put in SweetAlert, and save this, go back, reload my page, and then we'll go look at it in more detail. Let's just make sure it works. And it does. Error, do you want to continue? Cool. All right, so the way that this actually works is it's calling swal, and then it's calling a method on swal. Swal must stand for SweetAlert, and then it fires in some parameters. And that's pretty good. I mean, that's actually pretty useful. And I could, if I wanted to, come down here and add a function saying function notify modal. And we'll add some arguments there in a moment. So let's go up here and copy this and see what we should put in. So I'll copy that, paste it down here, and say swal fire. So it has a title, so I could put in title. It has some text, I can put in text. It has an icon, and it has a confirmation button. Okay, now let's go look at the documentation. Well, of course, to make this work, I would have to go title, which matches my parameter up there, text, which matches my parameter here, and icon, confirmation button text. And those don't match, so let's make them match. And that will work. There's no question that I could do that. So I could come up here and delete this and just call notify modal. And pass in a title, so I'll put in title, and text. I'll make it hello world, italicized, just because I can. Icon, I don't know what my icons are, so let's see what my icons are. Back to my documentation for SweetAlert and look for icons. Success, error, warning, and info. Let's make it a success. And confirmation button text, my text for the button. Doesn't matter what I put in there, I'm just testing this. I don't want to duplicate that. Let's save this, go back and preview it and see how it works. Okay, so everything seemed to work except this part, which says em hello world em. Well, I thought when I looked at the documentation that you could put some HTML in there. So why didn't that work? HTML, because rather than text, it should be HTML. So I could make this HTML. Save that, go back. I should be able to reload this, and that should be italicized this time. Oops, wrong button. And there it is. Okay, so that worked pretty well. I really like the animation of the check mark. That's a nice feature. So this is clearly going to do what I want. But let's look at this in a little more detail. What we can do here are all sorts of things. We can have the basic message. We can have one with some text under it. We can have a modal with a footer. And it gets more complex. Long content inside, so we can scroll all of that. Okay, that's so far so good. When we get down here a little bit more, custom HTML buttons with ARIA labels, we can do that. A dialog with 3 buttons, we can do that. We can have a custom position dialog. We can have a custom animated dialog. There's a lot of functionality here. A confirm dialog with yes. So there's here we can also even change the styling of the buttons. Pretty straightforward. Let's go down to AJAX request example. Well, what is AJAX? AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML, but nobody uses XML anymore. We use JSON, but we still call it AJAX because it was used for a long time. This allows me, if I click on this, submit my GitHub username, SweetAlert, look up, and it finds my picture. So clearly we can do way more with something like this. I mean, even just the fact that I can type something in is kind of cool. I can chain modals. So I can say A or whatever, something else, something else. So clearly there's a lot more I can do with this than I can with just a standard dialog box, even the Bootstrap one. The problem is, if I want to do that, all I'm doing here is calling something hello world. What if I want to write JavaScript that allows me to do all sorts of things? Well, I can do that just by copying and pasting examples from the GitHub documentation for SweetAlert, but it would be more useful if I could actually do what I did with Noti. Just simplify it with a simple command. So what I could do, I suppose, is write one function for notification, one function for a prompt input, one function for an AJAX request, one function to run some custom JavaScript, of all these different functions, and every time I want to use them, I'm going to be writing, as you can see in the examples here, some pretty long scripts. That seems like a lot of work. There's got to be a better way to do this. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to actually write, not in this lecture, but in the next lecture, we're going to take one of the functions available to us in JavaScript called modules. And we will write a JavaScript module which allows us to simplify calling SweetAlert. So SweetAlert is pretty impressive, actually. It even has toasts. I don't know if I showed you those. Let's look for toast. There's no example here. There it is. Is this an example? Yes. See, it puts the message up here. A little message that pops up in a corner. And I can just specify what corner. We're going to write a module that allows us to simplify our calls to SweetAlert. So we'll do that in the next lecture, because I want to keep this one with some fairly complex concepts I'll be throwing at you for the next little bit. So I'll keep the lectures relatively short. In the next lecture, we'll go through what a JavaScript module is and how we can write one. And we'll do it using SweetAlert for our functionality. All right, that's enough for this time around. We'll pick it up in the next lecture.